Fantastic.
Hey, welcome to the Try Once podcast. My guest today is Jeff Mahoney. He's the CEO of NEFT Vodka, which I'm super excited to talk about because it's a South Bay based local to my house vodka company. How are you today, Jeff?
I'm doing well. How are you? Of
Doing excellent. I appreciate the time. It,
course, my pleasure.
it's going to be interesting to hear kind of the growth of NEFT Vodka. It's a unique brand, and it's got a lot of headway coming in. How are you looking for 2025?
Strong. We're anticipating probably triple growth. We are now operating in 22 countries, so we have a bit of opportunity to actually create that growth. So we're excited about 25.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a lot of people seem to be excited about 2025 though, just in business in general.
Well, I think there's a favorable climate out there, not just within the United States, but
Oh yeah, global.
across the global landscape. There's a bit of a shift in the sort of pendulum as it happens about every 20 years or so. So those of us that have been around long enough, we know when those shifts are coming, and this is the beginning of one. So we're excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Was there a reason to start NEFT in El Segundo, or is it just where where it happened?
Well, we actually are technically a product of Austria. We have our
Okay.
main distillery in Austria. We have two in Hungary and one in Oregon. But when you talk about the California market, you're looking at the predominance of what is the United States markets for alcohol and spirits delivery. And when you look at America as a whole, you're looking at about 40% of worldwide consumption is across America. So it just makes sense to establish our corporate headquarters here in California and begin to branch from there.
I always tell people, I meet people of different parts of the country, and they don't understand. I go, California has more people in it than the country of Canada
Yeah,
by like 4 million.
it's quite a fascinating mix of people, but you can't deny the demographics.
Yeah.
You're looking at about 60% of U.S. consumption is in California, Texas, New York, New Jersey, and Florida, where the predominance of that is in California. And it's for the exact reason you talk about. It's just a much denser, higher population.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of people. I always
Yeah.
tell because they always get surprised when I tell them I sell Western clothing here. I'm like, we have a lot of everything here.
Right? I mean, if you look at Southern California, especially when you get towards Arizona, you're looking at the second biggest bread basket probably in the world, and it's predominantly Western.
I got Salinas in the Salinas Valley, which grows most of the lettuce and a lot of and then the
Yeah.
Central Valley's almonds and everything else.
It's quite a diverse ecosystem we have here, which is I don't think I think people taste LA and
Yeah,
think that's California, and it's not. It's the only place that I'm aware of that, I can go skiing in the morning and play volleyball on the beach in the afternoon, right? Same
I did
day.
that once right out of high school. I was in college, and my buddies and I we always joke about saying we could do it, so we did it one day. It was a long day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a bit of a long day, but the climate's so varied. It's
Yeah,
quite an interesting place to leave. I don't, the political environment's always moving up and down and changing direction, but I'll never leave.
yeah. My wife and I were taking a walk yesterday. We're like, this is why we live here.
Yep, that's exactly it. You get down to the beach or somewhere near that, and you're like, yep, I know why I'm here.
I was gonna ask you, so how much traveling have you done for NEFT and kind of all your other companies?
Whoa, I probably out of country or on travel 2 weeks a month.
Wow.
If I were to put it together, I just got back from Costa Rica yesterday. Did a 3 or 4 day stint there. Most of it is well, almost all of it's for business. So, my passport's full. If I look at my tripit.com, man, I've got millions of miles in there.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. When somebody's bringing out their travel schedule, I'm like, okay,
I
let's talk
did.
about
The most
it.
traveled person I talked to was a musician. He was on the road 300 days.
Yeah, I'm probably doing 200 days a year.
Yeah, I was like 130 to 140 when I was,
Mhm.
and I thought I traveled a lot. And all my friends like, oh my God, you travel. I'm like, oh man, I've met so many people that travel more than me.
yeah, I have many peers and friends who travel even more than I do, which is just insanity. It's very hard to balance your life when you're doing that, but it's a necessary part of building business.
Well, so that leads me to my next question. How do you balance your life?
When you're in home, for me, it's really being present, like making sure that you're actually doing quality things, not quantity things, that you mean it, if I can say it that way, that you're not just sort of checking a box for your spouse or friends or whatever. I think for me on travel, it's about checking in periodically, even if it's only by text, just making sure that you're maintaining those relationships. And I think my male and my female friends, they really enjoy that. Hey, just a simple text. Are you good? You
Yeah.
know, what's going on? And then based on the response from that, I might give them a phone call, squeeze something in. I'm on my way to next meeting. I'm in a car somewhere and I can drop 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And, I just let them know. I got 10 minutes, wanted to check in with you and see how it's going. So it's a little bit better than text, but at least text is available when you can't talk.
Yeah, that text like for me, my daughters, they're older now. I have granddaughters, but FaceTime has been when they were even in high school. If I could FaceTime them, I'm on the road for a week and a half, 2 weeks at a time. It just
You're
made my
there. Yeah, I have five sons, and the oldest is 29 and the youngest is 20. So I'm a little bit out of that, but I get to check in with them once a week and just catch up, see how they're doing, where they're at in the world, whatever it is that is really sort of catering to them. And I'm kind of a firm believer, you don't need to reach out to me. I'll reach out to you. Don't worry.
yeah.
Okay. And especially with children, I think there's an old style, if you will, the old school said, hey, when your kids should be calling you, and I believe in the reverse. They're not here for me. I'm here for them, so I'm gonna call them.
Well, that's why now with the grandbaby, it gives me even more of a reason to
Right?
see how she's doing.
No, no, no. I mean, sometimes I just call and, hey, I love you, boo. Just wanted to say hi. I got 3 minutes. What you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's part of the balance. I think, with my wife, it's really either bringing it with me, which she, bless her heart, does a tremendous amount of travel with me, which means, unfortunately, that she's spending a lot of time in a hotel room or in the
Yeah.
hotel, land. Maybe she'll go to the spa, whatever it is, but predominantly she's traveling because I asked her. And that gives us some quality time, even if it's just on an airplane.
I do the same thing. I try to bring my wife, and she's always available for my Hawaii trips, but the North Dakota trip, she's usually busy.
I don't understand.
And
He's not coming.
I go to Hawaii, it's like I'm actually doing work, and she's like, that's fine. Take your,
Yeah, yeah. I got lots to do, honey. I'll see you when
I'll
you
be
get
fine.
back.
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah, I get a few of that. Unfortunately, for a while, I tend to do the same trip over and over while we're establishing a market
yeah.
and then move on to a new place. So, towards the end of that, establishing protocol, she's like, yeah, I'm done going with you. I'll stay home. I'll wait
Yeah,
for
I don't
you.
need to go. Gee, thanks, honey.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, it was, I think in 2023 and 2, we were doing a lot of Dubai and the surrounding Emirates. And, I mean, what woman says no to Dubai, right? But she was, after a while, she's like, yeah, I've had enough of Dubai. I don't want to go anymore.
That's a long flight, though. I mean, that's,
It is. That's the real challenge for travel for me is it's just these long flights, Pete, these 16-hour flights, these 17-hour flights, or if you're going to South Africa where I do some business now, you're doing 22 hours with a layover somewhere. I mean, it's quite taxing to be frank. When I was a young man, I could handle that. I could handle a lot of things when I was
yeah, I
young,
was
but
gonna
now
say.
I'm a little bit older. It's like, that 16-hour flight's painful.
I think
Right.
I've been doing a 12 to Japan in April, and my wife's just freaked out. And I'm just like, to me, it's kind of like whatever, but then you hear
Mhm.
22 hours or 18 hours, and it's just like, oh,
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I could sleep 12 hours on an airplane, but I can't do 20,
yeah,
right? And I don't care how flat your seat goes,
yeah,
it's
it
painful.
doesn't matter. That's what I always tell
Yeah.
people too. It's like they're like, oh, but you upgrade. Oh, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's
I,
not that.
I have the same, I get the same comments, and my response is always the same. Okay, for the next 16 hours, I want you to stay in your bed.
Yeah, don't move.
Don't move. Just stay there.
I did that
We'll
when I had
let you go to
COVID.
the bathroom. Good luck, right? And then they sort of get a realization, oh, maybe that's not so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to
Um,
ask you with the long flights, even like Costa Rica is not what 10 hours.
no, it's only about 5 or 5.5 hours, Costa
Okay.
Rica. Yeah.
How do you fill up that time? Are you working? Are you relaxing,
You
sleeping?
know, I used to be, drag out the laptop and start working. I don't do that as much anymore. I started to realize one thing. You're generally displaying proprietary information on your laptop for everybody else to see, so not good. The work product is not as high. You'd be better off just sleeping that time and spending 2 hours back in your hotel room where you can have a high productivity than trying to spread this out over 8 or 9 hours. So I've kind of learned over the decades that it feels like you should be working, and I have to admit, there's sometimes I have a little bit of guilt or shame. I'm not sure what it is where I'm not working, but then I realize that I'm much more productive with a nap in 20 minutes than I am no nap in 4 hours on laptop on an airplane.
I find like obviously I don't turn my brain off, so I'm thinking about the work anyways. But that
Yeah,
it makes me more productive when I land, so I can just kind of punch out what I needed to get done versus constantly
true.
fidgeting and no, I'm fine, or no, give me a water or bathroom
Yeah.
break, and
I might take some notes. My brain is
yeah,
going like yours, and some things will just spin in my head until I write them down. So I'll write them down and then address them when I'm in an efficient, calm, collected place where I can really do a good job. So it becomes sort of an outline for whatever it is that I'm thinking. But I also use the plane for that strategic thinking, right? Like, what am I doing long range here? And that's something that you don't necessarily write down. I don't need my laptop for that. I just need some quiet time.
yeah.
So the planes with the lights out and, a quick nap, wake up, do a little bit of strategy calculations in my head, maybe another nap, maybe a movie. I've learned to enjoy Bollywood. Oh my gosh, so funny. I love these. I mean, the action and the drama turn out to be comedic to me. It's just over the top, and I love it. I just get such a kick out of some of these things, but that's also because I've seen every other movie, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I tend to watch the movies and my wife doesn't want to watch at home. So
Right.
there's an action
Exactly.
movie or something, some I'm like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
let me watch it now so I get it out of the way.
That's right. She's not going to come with me to the movie theater, so I'll watch
Yeah.
this by myself on the airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I do
totally.
that on the road too, though. If because I'm on the road quite a bit, and I'll go to a movie theater by myself and see, the Top Gun movie or whatever, whatever movie I know she desperately will not want to watch with me.
Right. Well, I mean, some movies, certainly deserve the full cinema. It's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
there's no, I don't care how big your screen is on the airplane. It's not doing it justice,
Oh
right?
no, gosh, no. But I,
Yeah,
I do. I try to catch up on movies that I know my wife
exactly.
not sit
Yeah.
through.
So I'll use that time. She needs my attention. You talked about balance before. When I get home, it's
Yeah,
about, okay. Let's have a quality listen.
yeah.
She wants to be heard, and she doesn't want me to solve anything. She just wants to tell me about sometimes her day or something that's really important to her. And so I don't have those moments to necessarily go through that quiet time to do that strategic thinking. So the airplane provides me that opportunity. It really does, actually.
I was just
Yeah.
yeah. I'm curious how you take it. I always tell my wife, look, I just ate out 7 straight days. I just
Right.
give me one night at home. I don't care who's in concert. I don't care. I know it's a great restaurant. Just give me one
Yeah.
first night. Just let me relax.
Yeah. I call it transition time. It's
Yeah,
like, honey, I know you're ready to go.
yeah.
You got to let me transition out of what I just got done doing. It was high energy. I was quote on. I
Talking.
had to have serious meetings, and I'm constantly thinking right now, I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to make any decisions. I don't want to have any serious conversations. And then we've even had the conversation before where she's like, "Well, let's go get a massage, tomorrow at 10." I'm like, all you did was give me another task.
Yeah,
right? So how about we go get a massage tomorrow when we feel like it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I have to change a little bit, and she's highly receptive to that, and she's really absorbing this idea that I just need a little bit of transition time.
Yep.
I need to stop making decisions, and then I'm 100% yours. What do you need? What do you want? How do you want the day to go? I'm all in. And then, as I was telling her just the other day, I get to enjoy you and our relationship rather than you just getting time from me.
Right.
I want it to be both sides, right? And I don't want to check a box. And I've been honest with her. I said, sometimes I feel like I'm just checking, okay, gotta go for the walk. And I gotta go get the coffee, gotta whatever it is that she wants to do. It's like if I had transition time then it's not checking a box. Now I'm 100% in.
Yeah. And now I want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally
So
agree.
yeah.
It's an interesting kind of mindset. My wife, fortunately, is good with it. But I've met a lot of it's a tough road for a lot of people, for couples.
It really is, and I hear it a lot, particularly from my male friends who are traveling and peers. It's they get handed the baby the moment they walk through the door. They're like, I literally just got off a 16-hour flight. Is there any way I can take a nap and then I'll handle the baby or whatever the, circumstance is. It's the idea that, I'm off work, so I'm ready for everything else. Well, no, I'm not. I do need a little bit of transition time. Then I'm in on whatever you want, honey. Right. And it's really hard to absorb, I think, because you have a spouse who's at home who's just chomping at the bit to use a
My
Western
boys.
friend, right? For you to get back so that she or he can hand you whatever task they didn't want to
Yeah.
do. Yes,
And then
and
some.
it adds up, right? And I do remember, getting a lot of early on, well, you're going to all these fun places. And I'm like, yes, but I'm doing meetings, which I could do anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. This has just happened where they happen to be, and I'm not really experiencing that city, right? And I remember one time with the St. Louis Arch, I said, I'm going to text you every time that I go by the arch in a car to another meeting and not go in,
Yeah.
right? And at the end of the day, she was like, okay, I understand. I got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So well, for one now, I try to schedule in a little bit of time for me to go. Like I went to Louisville a few times, and everyone would go, "Oh, you go to the Bat Museum?" I'm like, "No, like I go for work.
Yeah.
You got to do it. How about the Muhammad Ali?" And I'm like, "No."
No.
So I planned in a half day and did them all. I was like, "Oh, so awesome." So
Yeah, I, I I think
I
that's
try to
what it
schedule
takes,
in.
right? You got to work it into your schedule, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's part of balance, right? Is I got to work in the workout into my schedule. Otherwise, I would just fill up my calendar, right? And I do motorcycle rides, so I've got a variety of friends from all walks of life that we get together and we'll do a 2-day ride or whatever it might be, and it's everybody checked out. There's no work.
yeah,
We don't talk about work. We talk about dumb male stuff that no one else cares about.
yeah.
And it's wealthy people and powerful people and guy down the street and everybody else that's in this mix. And
It doesn't.
then that day we're just motorcycle enthusiasts, right? In fact, I'm wearing my NEFT
Ah,
speed shop shirt.
that's a cool shirt.
Yeah, which is what it's everybody at NEFT who rides motorcycles. We're all part of this speed shop, as we call it. And we get together and we just forget about business, and it doesn't matter what your title is. We're all equals, and we do an escape, right? And it's part of the balance in life is work isn't everything. And how do I check out of work and do mundane, fun, non-consequential,
Yeah,
no decision making, right? And then I'm refreshed, right? It's not about just taking a weekend off and being at home doing the garden, right? There's a little bit of camaraderie and interaction with other folks, and and just being a person and not being a CEO or
Awesome.
a director of this. Yeah, it's really it's something that I stumbled upon that I hope others can. Um, and I've really enjoyed those moments of resetting and quality time with peers and friends and being equals because especially in a man's world, there's a very
Hierarchy.
hierarchical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can get rid of that hierarchy for a little bit and just be equals and have a really fun experience, which is what NEFT Vodka is really about at the core anyway, is about there's no need for alcohol per se. It's not like a medicine or a car or something right there. It's a luxury item. You don't actually need it. So if it's not enhancing the quality of your life, what's the purpose
Yeah.
of this, right? So that has to permeate everything that you're doing, including the people that you're working with. They have to have an experience that is an enhancement in their life, which is what we try to do. Then they can pass that on. Then they can work in the context of NEFT as a vodka and pass that on to our consumers to create that emotional connection with those folks, which is first and foremost before you can sell anything. But if you don't believe in it, if you don't have a passion for it, if you don't believe in your product and why it's useful in somebody else's life, you can't convey that emotional connection. So
I,
we have to do these things.
I talk to a lot of salespeople about that. They're like, well, how do you do this or how do you? I'm like, well, just like you just said, you have to believe in it.
You do. Right. And that's why I believe in NEFT. Like we have an incredibly high quality product here, which I've been in a lot of products. Financial services is where I've made most of my sort of mark, as it were. And, global enterprises running in virtually every jurisdiction on this planet. NEFT, albeit small in only 22 countries, compared to some of those others, there's an emotional connection that you just need to create. There's a story that has to come from it, but that can only come from quality products and quality in people and quality delivery. And so NEFT Vodka itself, which is very intriguing to me, as a departure from financial services was based purely on the fact that it literally is water and rye, which you don't find in any other vodka. You find additives and things that you'd be surprised that are in those products. And I'm more of a purist. And the reason that this company really was intriguing to me at the beginning was because it was pure. But also, if I could, just for a moment, it was because I could deploy all the lessons that I've learned in all these other companies, right? They're not without lessons. They're not without failures. They're not without mistakes, right? And so I thought, hey, this might be a place where I could do something close to pristine, not only as a company, but as a culture and as a deliverable to consumers out there where I can have an impact, a true impact on their quality of life. I can bring them something that's much better than they're experiencing today at a comparable price. And at the same time, I can build a global enterprise out of this, which I'm used to building and create a legacy for my family. All my other companies, as you mentioned, I do have a bit of a ecosystem that we've built. I
Yeah.
intend to sell those companies. NEFT is a legacy company. If I had my way and I could figure out how to come back in 300 years, hoping that NEFT is still here.
Can you show your shirt again real quick?
Yes.
So NEFT being a oil can based vodka,
Yep.
you know, that's where that comes from for my people that are watching on the YouTube channel. It's a cool delivery setup. I mean,
It's a great format.
yeah,
The whole purpose behind it is sustainability, recyclability. I firmly believe in that. The company is designed to focus on women and children from a charitable standpoint. So the stories don't work if you're trying to be charitable and create an altruistic outcome for some people in our community, while at the same time you're doing all the old, unsustainable, you know, things that aren't supporting our environment, they don't match,
Yeah.
right? So I needed a format that was 100% recyclable, unlike glass. Glass is not is 100% recyclable. It's sort of an unknown that about 70 or so percent of glass goes back into the trash cycle because it's colored and can't be recycled. But the barrel that we've created is 100% recyclable. It also has some added utility. It keeps the vodka
Oh,
cold.
yeah.
It's amazing, right? It's triple lined. It really can keep the vodka cold for about 4 hours at the beach, 6 hours out of poolside, and it's unbreakable, right? I have a quick story that I love to tell. I have a wealthy friend, and he can buy anything he wants. And I show up at his house, and on the bar is this broken, battered barrel of NEFT, right? And I'm like, hey, I can replace that for you, right? Somebody, I'm joking, right? And he says, no. He says, I went to the liquor store. I did the classic, leave everything on the roof of the car, drove off. Everything shattered except the NEFT barrel. I'm keeping that one.
Oh, shoot.
And he's like, I'd love another case, but that one stays on the shelf. And it was amazing. And really a testament to the story, but it also leads me, if I will, Pete, into motorsports, right? It is an oil barrel. Neft, in fact, in many Cyrillic languages means oil.
Okay.
That's actually the translation. So if you go to the Ukraine, for example, it means oil. They read that word as oil. And so we are a sponsor of the Visa Cash App Red Bull second racing car at Formula One. And so you can start to see the overlap here as
Yeah,
to why
sure.
we want that barrel. And it's really been an amazing part of our story as we're telling this story out in the world landscape. So it's lent itself well in many different ways for us. But I think the ultimate really piece of this is it's left us with this sustainability story that mimics what Formula One is about. I don't think most people really understand this. It's about innovation and about precision, but it's also about sustainability. That's the story that Formula One likes to tell on a worldwide basis. So there's a almost a 100% overlap in what we are doing as a vodka company and what they are doing as a driving and racing team in Formula One, particularly with Red Bull. So it's an interesting sort of overlap that no one else really shares with
At
the
all.
Formula One space that we get to leverage and create that emotional context. And we've had some great success. We're in our second year now sponsoring that team, and we've seen a lot of growth in our product. They operate in 24 countries,
Yeah.
right? So again, that leads into even more travel for me, right? We
Say
get to
there's your
go.
Dubai trips.
Yeah, a lot of those trips are centered around Red Bull, Formula One, and the myriad of other sponsors that are on those teams that, I'm fortunate enough to be around and
That's a
really
whole
connect
different.
with.
F1 is it's kind of a traveling circus in that sense. I mean, because it goes to, I go to Vegas the week after F1's there, and it's still going on.
It's still going on. Yeah, it's quite a machine if you've really seen the inner workings, which as sponsors we get to see.
Yeah,
I mean, they're standing up three-story buildings.
it's
They're not
insane
10.
what they built in Vegas. It's
Yeah.
unreal.
And they'll do it in 2 days, three
Yeah,
days.
yeah,
It's spectacular, the machine and logistics behind what's happening with these 10 teams and the amount of money that rolls into this. I think in Vegas, they had a $3 billion revenue stream in that 1 week period.
it's crazy.
It's crazy what's happening there. But it's also other than the World Cup, it's larger than any other event on the planet. 110 million viewers on average for each race. It's bigger than the Super Bowl.
Yep,
It's not quite as big as the World Cup every 4 years, but you're talking about an engaged, immense audience that I can't I can't pass up on no matter what the cost is. So we are entrenched in that, and if I could, it brings together one thing that no other place that I've seen does. It gives me access to top down in business building and bottom up. So
Okay.
bottom up for me is touching the consumer and working our way up. Top down is working at the board level of these companies and working our way down. I get both of those a single
A
Formula
race.
One race.
Yeah.
Yeah, best money we ever spent.
You're literally, yeah, I'm just trying to imagine you have everybody from Mercedes and all the other companies that are there for different reasons. And then
Yeah.
you have consumers that are buying your vodka because they want a refreshing drink.
When they're learning about it, and we bring our influencers to those races, they have a myriad of opportunities for content creation. I mean, these are coveted things. Like a paddock pass
Yeah.
is a very coveted thing. In fact, for the most part, some of the entryways that we have as sponsors, you just can't buy unless you're a sponsor. So we can offer something truly unique to our communities. And hopefully we're leveraging that correctly. We're creating that emotional connection as we've talked about.
Yeah.
But it requires a lot of hand holding from me and from my team. So we're on travel.
Got to do it. So my guest next week is Paul Tuttle Jr. From American Chopper. And so
Okay. Really?
we were just talking about, I mean, I spent like an hour and a half on with him, but it's interesting. He's doing like insurance companies and he kind of sees it the same way. As far as the top down and bottom up, because he sees both too, right? I mean, he's talking to the heads of these corporations of why they should build a vehicle with him. And then he's out there pumping it up at all the bike shows and Daytona and
Yeah, I love it. I'm thrilled. I'll definitely be watching that episode. You know, my five sons, as I mentioned earlier to you, got together with my wife and created a custom motorcycle for me.
there you go.
A 2017 V-Rod Harley Davidson that they put a 300 millimeter tire on the back and all kinds of and really unique features, all NEFT branded.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
magnificent. Yeah, right. So I've already had a few folks who want to show the bike, actually.
There you go.
Really excited about getting that out there. You know, we talked a bit about motorcycles, but we also many of the folks at NEFT are truck builders.
Yeah.
We build our off-road vehicles, and we turn every bullet ourselves, right? One of those things. So it's been a really fun path to be in the motorsports world, even though obviously I'm not driving Formula One cars. I'm not even, right? No way. I mean, the response, these guys are amazing athletes. It's ridiculous when you really hear about the nuances of what it takes. And I'm not even close to that, but
Yeah.
we are in the motorsports world in earnest. Like we really do build our own vehicles. We really do take them out. We really do have our finger on the pulse of motorsports. So makes good sense for us right now. We can build a big company around just purely motorsports. So we're enjoying that. And the custom motorcycles and things like that. Little perks, just some fun stuff that sort
Yeah.
of punctuates life and makes it all worth it.
Well, it's like I
Yeah.
went down to the Long Beach Grand Prix, right? And
Yeah.
there's no way. It's like to see them in person going that fast, turning that hard, and then braking that hard.
It's crazy. So we actually, before we sponsored the Visa Cash App car of Red Bull, we sponsored Mario Andretti in Indy.
Oh wow.
So I did get a chance to ride with Mario Andretti in a two-seat version of the Indy car that they designed for, us
Right
spectators
along.
to
Yeah.
jump in the back, right? The most amazing experience I've had. I mean, I'm not even sure what is he in his 80s, and there's no way I could do the things that he was doing. But we're coming up at 200 some odd kilometers and then down to 15
Yeah.
to do a hairpin turn, right? It's just craziness. It was a very exciting opportunity. I've never actually driven other than a simulator, right? And which doesn't do it justice at
No.
all. But to be in the back seat with Mario Andretti was just a heart pounding
Yeah,
experience that was just awe-inspiring. You're like, wow. I mean,
I didn't like it. I did a ride
y-
along at Fontana Speedway, the NASCAR track,
yeah.
and I was in the right side, and he's like, "Do you want to get close to the wall?" I go, "Well, yeah. I mean, do what you got to do, bro." Like, holy, I literally could have reached out and grabbed that wall, and I'm like,
Right?
I didn't like the G's because I felt obviously I wasn't in control.
Well, that's it. See, you know how it goes, right? If your hands are on the steering wheel, it's a whole
I'm
different
good.
experience.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I've done a lot of NASCAR uh, rentals.
yeah. That's what we
Not
did for my
not
dad.
yeah, no mistake. I've never driven in NASCAR, but I've driven lots of NASCARs, if you will. And I just remember my first experience on the radio. The guy's like, "This car will hold even if you think it's slipping. Just keep turning." Right? Doing 190 miles an hour
Yeah,
around, it was actually the California Speedway, right?
yeah. That's what
And
we did for my dad for his birthday. My dad's like, "Hey, do you want to go ride along?" I'm like, "Yeah, all right." It's like 10 laps or 5, 10 laps, I think.
yeah,
I did not like it.
right. It's scary.
I'd
You
love
know
to
what
drive
else
it,
I
but I
did
don't want
there?
the passenger side.
Outside there for a little while, you could rent like Ferraris and Lamborghinis and whatnot. And they sort of professionally taught you how to drive. And I was there all day one day thinking, oh man, I got this, right? I
Yeah.
progressed. And as I'm rolling around on my fastest lap, this Corvette comes skating around me, just sort of let me know that, yeah, I
You're
wasn't
not
doing
going
that
that
well.
fast. Yeah, exactly right.
I thought I was the bomb, but nope, I wasn't going that fast at
You're in a
all. But it
go-kart.
was still fun. Yeah, it was a great experience there. But we really do take that stuff seriously, and we've got a lot of experience. Our chief marketing officer is great friends with Hoonigan and SEMA and all the major motorsports groups out there. We've sponsored rally cars in Europe, etc. So we do take it very, very seriously, but it's very serious fun too, if I could say that, Pete.
I was gonna say, so most of your travels for work, right? But it's not. I mean, people go, "Oh, you just get to go to the races." I mean, but there's different shows that you have to go to and different events and different cities.
Yeah,
I mean, like SEMA's a blast, but it's still work. It's still you got to
it's
start
still work.
when
It's
you're
still
you have to be
work.
on 20.
Yeah, that's it. You got to be on, right? You got to be on. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Pete, but yeah, you really do have to be on. And I'm an introvert. This is difficult for me,
Yep.
right? To be on all the time. That's work. I have a number of friends who are extroverts. They're all fired up when they're all done. They get energy out of this. I get home after 7, 8 hours. I'm dead. Yeah, I've expended everything that I have. I got to rest up for the next day. So health is a really, really important thing for me. I can't push it like I used to. So I have to eat right. I have to, work out whenever I can fit one in. My wife is really a boon to that. She's a health nut, so I get the green drink every morning, whether I want one or not. Right.
My wife's a Pilates instructor, so I get to make sure you stretch, do
Yeah.
do that. I'm like, yeah, yeah,
I keep saying, honey, I know you do yoga 2 or 3 times a day, but once a week's about all I can do.
yeah. Well,
But she does keep me.
I make the unfortunate mistake of saying, well, if I can get a better instructor, I'll do more Pilates.
Oh, yeah, that'll go over well. I'm gonna try that one tonight with her.
Don't try that one. Don't try that one. It's not recommended.
No. So, but we also sponsor because of vodka, and we're looking at how do we connect with people in a place that they want to be connected with, right? And it's not always, at the Ralphs or wherever it is that we sell our product, right? It's in an emotional context. So we do a lot of festivals. We've started throwing our own. We did Worlds Away in October last year as our first festival. We get to go there and really control the environment and get what I like to call 100% adoption instead of just a little bit of an adoption based on the sponsorship. But there I get to go and and be a person, be a patron, right? And go and experience a show that at that time it was chain smokers and Tiesta were the primaries for us on a this 12-hour sort of cycle.
That's awesome.
And I was just Jeff, the audience guy.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. And that's a rare moment for me. Usually I am on, like you were talking about. And in this case, I just showed up and brought my wife. My sons brought their partner.
There you go.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah, sometimes it happens.
It's lost the internet connection.
I always tell people, I go, do you realize like it's a signal coming from here out to outer space to a satellite, and going over,
Right?
coming back. There's a lot going
Yeah.
on there.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot of single points of failure.
Yeah, exactly.
I just had one of them. Yeah, my apologies. I don't even know where we left off. I'm so sorry.
No, no, it's all good. It's all good. Unfortunately or fortunately, I've had that happen. You know, it's funny. I just talked to Paul Tuttle Jr. because he just started his own podcast show.
Ah,
First 4 or 5 episodes, it's him talking about his design and the studio he has, and he goes, "I want to start bringing guests on. What do you have any advice for me, Pete?" I go, "Just remember, you don't control unless they're in front of you."
doesn't all go well all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's not always as smooth. So this
Well,
is,
I appreciate your patience with that.
oh, no, it's all good.
I guess that's the test, right, of whether or not you're easily stressed.
God, I had to be in my 20s. Just had 2 kids, 2 daughters, 17 months apart. And one of the business guys I talked to, he said you could judge the size of a man by the size of his problems.
Hmm.
He was referring to golf. Like, he goes, when you go golfing and like a ball this big and the guy's just freaking out, losing it, it's like, that really shouldn't
Yeah.
be.
No, I think that's something that I've learned, actually probably through business, certainly personal life is just these things have a way of resolving themselves. There's no reason to get all wrapped up into it. It serves no purpose. We were talking earlier about time on an airplane and being efficient with that. Once you let anger or frustration or fear cloud, then you're not moving anywhere.
Yeah.
You've killed whatever opportunity you have for creating a solution until such time as you get out of that emotion.
And I think maybe because obviously I'm just getting older. So I've had some friends pass and, you sit there and you go, what does it matter? Robert would give anything to have the issue I have today.
Right, exactly. And I got to tell you, I think you already know this. I've met an innumerable amount of people in both political and non-political environments, wealthy, non-wealthy, and everybody at end of life, as it were, let's say 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever it might be for them. No one's ever said, I wish I had more money. All they ever say is, I wish I'd spent more quality time with the people around me.
Yeah.
I wish I had been less angry. I wish I would have been slower to rage or whatever it was that really hampered their life. And so I live by that. I've been fortunate enough to hear those things early in my life from elders. And to be frank, I think that's created that sort of calm that does create success, right? When you're talking about business, and especially as I'm mentoring young men and women, I say there was because they'll inevitably ask me, "Well, when did things change for you?" I said, well, when I figured out that I could either stroke my ego or make money, right? And if my ego required it to be stroked all the time,
Yeah.
then I was having some other problems.
Yeah.
And I needed to look at those. And, if the little golf ball is sending me into rage, then I got some other challenges I should be working on.
Exactly right. I,
Yeah.
I I know I heard a lot of good gems when I was younger. I probably just didn't hear them.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. Yeah, it's you're fortunate if you can remember some of those and then I know what they were saying.
yeah, yeah. 30 years later, ah.
Right now I got it. Gosh darn it. Why didn't I get this 30 years ago?
Well, I always tell like my daughters, I go, I've been down the road you're going, and I know there's no bridge right there. I know where the
Yeah.
bridge is located, but you don't want to listen to me. You think there's still a road there. And I go, it drops
Right.
off.
I have had the same conversation. I say it in a bit different way. I say, there's a cliff over there,
Yeah.
right? And you're heading straight for it. I said, again, the five boys, I said, my real gift to you is not making sure that you made it to age 18, which is all I'm legally required to do.
Yeah.
I keep
Yeah.
reminding them. I said, it's that I'm giving you a 30-year head start if you want it.
Yeah.
Ask me questions. I'll tell you. Right. And every lesson that I learned, unfortunately, I learned the hard way. I said, I've been the oldest in my lineage for a long time. I've been on my own. Everything that I know because I learned it, because I made mistakes and I fell off that cliff that you're heading for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes they have to get close to it.
I think so, and isn't that that's the real challenge, right? Is like as a parent, how close do I let them get to that
Yeah.
before I let them know it's there?
Exactly. I've done
Yeah.
that multiple times. And I'm like, God, it's hard because I
Yeah.
just want to get you to the bridge.
Yep, I just want to steer you over here and make this life easy for you, but that doesn't serve them, right? Because our real purpose, I think, our real purpose is to make sure that they're happy and joyful after we're gone,
Yeah.
so that they're prepared for life and that they can pass that on. It's not my job to watch over them, nor can I their whole life. So I've got to prepare them.
I think
Yeah.
some of that's missing though. Uh,
I think it's missing a lot, and there's a lot of narratives out there that I hear that I think, oh, that's a shame. That's
yeah.
you're missing some of that. But for the most part, again, I think that pendulum is kind of coming back, and there's a sense of logic that seems to be permeating. But I've been around this in my third 20-year cycle, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen these things happen before. I've had lots of conversations with my sons in which I've said, "Oh, you think this is the first time this has happened in our society?"
Oh man.
Yeah. They're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, let me tell you about the other two times this has happened and the
Have
outcome."
you found yourself doing that more? Like,
Yeah.
'cause I'm like, I remember what we went to the Gulf War in late 80s, 88, 89, maybe 90.
89, 91, 90. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And the economy that I worked in at that time crashed. And
Hmm.
I dealt with computer software, and
Yeah.
people stopped buying computer software for some reason. It just died.
Right.
And then the platform that I worked on died, the Commodore
Right.
64, 128, and Amiga.
It's like the AS400, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. And so it's just interesting, like you said. It's like they haven't experienced. I mean, even like my kids are 29 and 31,
Mhm.
and they haven't experienced a dramatic downfall yet.
No, they don't know what to do with it, right? They don't know what an actual crash looks like. They don't
Yeah.
know what an actual burning society looks like. They don't really know that. But that, this is really travel oriented. That's one thing that I've noticed as I do travel around the world is the things that Americans have the luxury because of the amendments and the rules and the laws and the government and the folks around us who have paid the price, particularly the military. You mentioned the Gulf War there, right? Um, they don't realize that they have it significantly better than most of the rest of the world, really, in all veins of life, not just the economies, etc., but really the attitude towards females, towards children, towards certain laws are penalties are so egregious in certain areas. Like I'm often asked, well, I hear there's no crime in Dubai. I said, yeah, because the penalty for crime is outrageous,
Yeah.
right? You have no idea what the penalties for innocuous things are. So it's something that is more draconian than you can even imagine, but it's just quiet about it. And you don't see that unless you're traveling.
My wife, she wants to go to Dubai, and I go, you need to look into the do's and don'ts of couplehood in Dubai.
Oh, yes, right. Exactly. And
No public displays of affection, and
All that. My my two oldest boys came with me on several trips. They do work in some of my companies as successors, and I'm grooming them, I hope. And they brought their partners one time, and I said, I gotta tell you some rules here, guys, that you probably never heard of. I said, you see those shoulders and knees that you're showing right now?
Lord.
No. Uh-uh. I said, if you guys have a drink, which I'm sure you will, do not step one single foot outside of this hotel. Right? Do not ever leave. You're not getting in a car, whether it's in a cab or you're certainly not driving. I said, there's a zero tolerance here for these
There's no
things.
point zero 0.08.
Yeah, there's no room for error. You're either done or you're going to jail, right? And I said that, but the consequence to us is we perceive that it's a safe place,
Yeah.
but you don't realize the price of
Of the
safety.
safety. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Price of safety is liberty. You give up your liberty for that. So, I said, when you come back to the States, think about that. Do you want freedom or do you want security?
Right.
Because you don't get them both unless first you have freedom. But if you give up freedom for security, now you're probably going to lose both of those things.
Right.
Which is what happens in the Middle East, what happens in many European, especially Eastern European countries. I mean, when you travel and you see an actual socialist country or an actual communistic country, you're like, I don't think that the folks in the United States who are taking up these these pathways because they're new college students or whatever it is who haven't learned the lessons like even our 29 and 30-year-olds haven't learned. They don't really understand what they're actually asking for because they're not well traveled. But then again, the United States is so huge, why do you have to leave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think it helps you appreciate when you come home, though, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
complain a lot about this and that and this and that, and I go, at least I get to complain about it.
Right. You know what? Back when I won't mention the president's name, but we were a bit of a laughing stock in the Middle East, and I was doing a tremendous amount of travel all over the Emirates and in Saudi Arabia and other places like that. And I was catching a little bit of grief from my counterparts that I was meeting with, and I said, "There's one difference. I can go home and talk about this.
Yeah.
You cannot." Okay. And if we were so inclined, our society collectively could impeach that person. You cannot.
Yeah.
I said, so yes, sometimes we're going to cycle through somebody that's perceived internationally to not necessarily be on par with previous presidents, but we can fix that. You cannot. Yeah. And it really does. I hear you loud and clear. It's like I get to come home to a place where I have the opportunity to do these things that other societies will not allow. And
Not
you
even
only get that
close.
perspective.
Yeah.
Pardon me? Yeah.
Not even close. I mean,
Not even close.
like I'm
No,
excited to go to Japan because of how clean it is,
right?
you know,
Yeah.
but it's 98% Japanese. They don't have any other culture. They don't really allow other cultures into their society.
You know what? Most country states, city states that I've experienced, they do not. They have a very, very um, different view of other societies and other races than we do in the United States. I hear this all the time. These negatives about the United States, which I won't necessarily get into. But when I go, my statement's almost always the same. Have you been to this country or
Yeah.
that country? Like maybe you don't realize how well you have it here,
Yeah.
right? And it's really contrasting if you have the luxury, opportunity, necessity to travel. If you don't get out of this country and do that kind of traveling, you're not really prepared to have the conversations that you're having right now
Oh,
inside the United States.
I've had the conversation with some people that have traveled overseas or just different countries, even just in South America. And I'm like, the court systems don't work the same down there.
Right?
They just
Yeah.
don't. Like you think the U.S. laws are applicable? They're not. How much money do you have on you, and how much
All
money can you
right.
get sent wired down to get you out of jail?
That's right. Maybe you don't know what Sharia law means. It's not English common law.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, I've often heard that while on travel from U.S. citizens where, well, they don't have a right to do that. I go, yes, they do.
Yeah, they do.
It's their country. They
Yeah.
absolutely do.
I traveled to a South American country, and I met he was a Canadian, but he lived there at the time, and he told me about the story where him and his buddies were out partying it up, and the police,
Didn't go well.
yeah, it didn't go over well, and
Yeah,
he had a footprint about this big on his chest from where the guy was standing on him.
right.
And then when they found out that they lived there and they weren't just tourists and they weren't going to get any more money, they just let him go.
Exactly. Right.
I go, how
Yeah,
long were you there?
so
He goes, a couple days.
right. The economy in different countries drives certain behaviors, certainly, but it's also just a cultural thing.
So, very much. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very much. It's indoctrinated from the very beginning, just like we teach our children, they teach their children, and they just teach a different way of life that I think a lot of Americans, as they're out on travel, don't realize that you're not in America right now.
Yeah.
And you have to act and speak accordingly and realize that you're not there. And every once in a while I do remind my wife anecdotally. Now she's from the Ukraine
Okay.
and she understands socialism very, very well.
She's got a whole different understanding.
Whole different understanding of how that all works. And she's experienced a lot of freedom in the last 20 some odd years inside the United States that I do remind her sometimes when we're in a foreign country, honey, we're not in America currently.
Yeah.
What you learned as a freedom that you didn't have in a socialist country, we're kind of back there now.
Yeah. Yeah. It still exists.
Yeah. And it's always a eye-opening, oh yeah, right, okay, And then we're back on the same page and we're appropriately treating the world around us because of an understanding of those cultural differences and governmental differences. And then we come back home and you can see the sort of sigh of relief when we're on the plane home. Her actions change. She's like awake again, as it were. She's not on guard. And I've mentioned it to her. I said, do you know your demeanor changes
Totally.
on the plane coming back to the US? She's like, yeah, I feel a lot different. I go, what do you feel? And she says, I feel safe again.
Yeah.
And I said, well, be sure to tell your friends. I don't think they appreciate that.
Well, and how do you appreciate it if you've never known anything different, right? I mean,
That's it.
if you don't travel and if you stay in California or wherever,
You can't, there's no contrast.
yeah,
There's no real understanding. And there's a narrative that says, hey, I should be able to go wherever I want, do whatever I want, dress however I want. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that. And I should be able to walk down the streets of Compton, but that's unlikely to happen safely for me.
yeah,
Right. So let's be a little bit smarter about the decisions we're making, right?
yeah,
What we're choosing to wear, how we're choosing to act and be cognizant of what's happening around us. And that does only come from travel when you're not just a tourist, when you've been enough
yeah,
that you're now speaking to locals and
yeah.
you're now working with locals, which you only really do in a business setting. The rest of it is a very contrived
Disney.
tourist
Yeah,
destination. Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's not business. Right? Business is about dealing with folks who live there full time, who operate in that environment, and you need to know the nuances, right? I don't walk into the Middle East and touch anybody on the shoulder with my left hand, right? Small things like that. If you're on the right side, they enter the elevator first, doesn't matter their seniority or not. Right? There are just certain little nuances that you get that you pick up on as you're traveling that you don't get as a tourist.
Yeah.
So it's a bit different when you're really inside of a society and you get to see how it operates. I don't think people, for example, in India understand the caste system as an American. You just don't perceive that there's any kind of difference in
In people.
people, right? But you go to India and as a tourist, you probably don't notice it, but you go there and do business, which I've done for years, you notice it right away, right?
Oh,
These
yeah.
folks definitely treat each other differently. And to me, visually, there's no
I like
difference
the same. Yeah.
to me, right? And I hate to say it that way. They all look Indian, right? But there is a clear line between these different castes that I don't appreciate, but I've seen it in real time how they're treated right in front of me, right? Which you would never see as a tourist. And so that's a business angle that gives us as traveling business people a different perspective that others don't have. And at the same time, it's really fascinating to
Well,
watch that
for me, I
unfold.
tell you, it's given me appreciation for being in the apparel business. Like we won't make stuff in Bangladesh. We'll make it in India, but we won't make it in
Right.
Bangladesh because they just treat their employees so much worse.
Right. I mean, I didn't realize until later in life where I should be investing. And,
Yeah.
as I make private investments and things like that, I'm very cognizant of well, what's the actual downline chain for creation of this particular product?
Yeah.
Who's involved in this, and how are they being treated? And it's astonishing and devastating sometimes to find out the products that we take for granted here that are imported. If you found out what was actually happening behind the scenes, you might stop using those products.
There's I won't say the name of the company, but there's a shirt company. I believe it was Laos. I'm most positive it was Laos. And the union, the workers wanted to go be unionized. They wanted to, I think they wanted to make $3 a day was their cap because it was like
Okay.
$2 a day. It was 25 cents an hour.
Right.
So they went on strike because they got westernized. You know how they cured that problem?
Bet it was with violence.
The government sent in the military and shot some of the protesters and said, "Get back to work."
Right.
And they got back to work.
They got back to work,
And
right?
the
And
union
imagine,
and the
right?
union talks ended.
Immediately,
Yeah,
right?
because they literally shot and killed people that were protesting.
Yeah, we'll make an example out of a few of you because we can't kill the entire worker population.
Because we need the revenue.
Yeah.
But you get where this
And
is going.
yeah, right. I get where this is going, and it's something that the American population doesn't see. So I often encourage people, I'm like, that's a really odd statement for you to make. Why don't you do some traveling and then in a year we'll talk again?
Yeah.
Yeah. And having said that, it is fun. I think it gives you a perspective. I think that you, as an individual who travels, learns something really, really important. There is no difference in color and race and all those things. Talent is equally distributed across the world landscape,
Yeah.
but opportunity is not.
That's the difference.
Opportunity is not. And here in NEF, we try to do this, and this is our focus on women. We focus on children and women, but when we focus on children, we're helping a range of things, whether that's pediatric cancer or literacy, whatever it might be. But when it comes to women, what we're trying to do is create an equal opportunity. I don't believe as a company it's our job to create equity or even equality. Laws are already in place for that. But what we can help with is opportunity, which I don't believe is equally distributed. And so we can help create that. And those are, if I will, those are lessons that we learn on travel. Seeing that opportunity is not equally distributed, but we can help in certain places with that. We can't help everywhere. And as we grow as a company, We are instantiating more and more programs that help in those various arenas. And we're hopeful that over time we can make some solid impact. The 22 countries that we do operate in are mostly well-formed, so we won't call them third world countries. So our impact is a bit less, but I just mentioned a bit earlier that I come back from Costa Rica yesterday. We run a program down there. I shouldn't say that. We assist in a program down there that is helping females from age 4 months to 29 years old. They age out around 30. And it's in that country setting, we can have a huge impact. We can really change people's lives down there. Whereas the same dollar spent in America has very little impact, right? And charitable organizations tend to be corrupt somewhat. Not much. Maybe a dime of the dollar ends up at the end game here. And in Costa Rica, it's wrought with corruption, no question. But you can find those programs where people are very, very attuned with the actual outcome and they funnel every penny down to the end game, whether that's children or women or men or whatever it might be. So we're very excited to play parts in that. So it's really interesting how we can have a great impact with the same dollar
Both
in one
ways.
country but not in another country, Pete. It's really it does change, and so
Well, I
that's a
think
pers
the U.S. is corrupt in a different way. It's more corporately corrupt versus I think in Costa Rica they just go, give me the money. Up
Oh
here,
no, they're very overt about
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
it.
yeah, just give me the money. You know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
whereas up here, it's well, did you file the right form? Are you a 501c or
yeah.
you
It's
know,
it's hidden, we call it, right? It's sort of ingrained in the fabric,
yeah,
right? Whereas in third world countries, it's a very overt, obtuse. Yeah, I'm going to need the money before I give you the appointment,
yeah,
or whatever it is that you're working with, right? In Costa Rica, for example, socialized medicine. So healthcare is socialized down there. So if theoretically every citizen gets free
yeah,
healthcare, good luck getting an appointment though,
yeah,
right? Unless you have 50 US dollars, nobody's going to put you on the calendar,
yeah.
right?
You need to grease the wheel.
You need to grease the wheel, and
And
it's a
50 US
terrible,
dollars is huge down there.
huge,
Huge.
huge, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Because
People are like, oh, $50, that's not bad. Right? No, 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 no.
no, no, no. You just changed somebody's life. You probably gave them 2 weeks worth of money, right? In certain areas. Latin America is wrought with that, right? You can give somebody, $100 tip, which on a good meal here is probably,
Yeah,
a low dollar amount, right? You take your family out to dinner, that's a $400, $500 meal. I mean, even at the local place nowadays, right?
yeah.
But that $100 tip that you just gave somebody here in the United States, that can change somebody's life
It's a
in
month's
Costa
pay.
Rica.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, quick anecdote, my wife's family got snagged up in the war that's going on right now. So we brought them to the United States, which was a struggle and a 4 month process and lots of planes and mistakes and wasted money and everything else. But um, I could send them $1,000, Pete, and that
yeah,
was 4 months.
yeah.
They could live 4 months really happily. Now here, yeah, $1,000 doesn't even go to Trader Joe's, right?
Or my wife's Target run.
Right,
Uh,
exactly, right. So it was I'm glad that they're here and they're safe, certainly as we were hearing explosions on the phone calls that we were making
yeah.
with them. Their building is now gone that they had lived in. Um, but I have to admit, it was much cheaper to take care of them when they were in the Ukraine.
Well, I'm dealing with my elderly mother-in-law, and you start looking into facilities to put him in.
Uh-huh.
You're like, oh, that's the
Yeah.
bracket I should have gotten into.
Right? And that and insurance companies.
Yeah, yeah, God, no kidding. Where we live, that's gonna be a whole new.
Oh no, it's and I'm fortunate because I think both of us we live in the South Bay, so we've been shielded a bit from the fires and
Yeah,
whatnot. But I know a tremendous number of people who haven't, not so fortunate. I don't know what's going to happen with those folks. One of my friends is an elderly gentleman, and his wife have lived in their home for 40 some odd years. They were one of the unluckies who was canceled from the insurance on the fire side, and what's he going to do? Like start his life over? He only has like 10, 15 more years of life. He was ready to live there. They'd built everything around that, and now they're in an apartment in I forget where, Altadena or Garden Grove, I think it is. Just trying to get as far away as they can, but they spent a lifetime
that house.
building,
Yeah.
building that house and building that life. Gone. No, no opportunity for rebuild. Nothing.
I saw a real estate expert, and he was asked how long till the Palisades gets back, and he said 7 to 10 years is what
That's
people.
what I would have thought. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a decade.
I mean, what are you going to do in the meantime? You've already changed your life at that point. Why
Oh,
come back?
you had to have. I mean, you're not. Well, yeah, they're talking Lahaina in Maui.
Mhm.
They still haven't started building a house there yet. Like
That's what I understand. Yeah,
still
right.
remediating the soil.
Right. I mean, you can't even clean up your house in the Palisades. Like
They
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 won't let
take
you back
over
in.
a year to touch their property in Lahaina.
It's I don't know what the reasoning is. I mean, I've heard the stories and I
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I hear from our political environment what the stories are. It's just hard for me to swallow that you can't fix this earlier for these folks.
Oh, it's gonna
Like,
wait till the homes in Malibu. They're not gonna let them build those homes again. They wouldn't meet code.
no, heck no. They wouldn't, right?
Those wood
So
structures that were touching each other, that's not gonna. So if you had a 4,000 square foot house and they go, well, you can rebuild, but it's gonna be 2,500 square feet now because we need clearances, we need this, we need that.
offsets and whatever else it is,
Well,
yeah,
if
it's
that home is
devastating.
2,000 a square foot and you're 1,500 square feet less,
Yeah, you just lost a lot of money.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's hard to say unfair,
it is what it is,
right?
right?
It is what it is, and it's devastating. And I think there needs to be, there's this sort of understanding. Oh well, these are rich people, so it's okay. Is a bit of a narrative I keep hearing, and I'm like, that you guys really appreciate that. Probably most of those people's net worth is in that house,
Well, they don't think about the what 80 homes that were the mobile homes that were right
right?
there are just disintegrated. I mean, they were my daughter got married at the Bel Air Bay Club right there, which survived.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, that mobile home park that was right next door is just gone, gone,
Gone.
gone,
Yeah,
gone.
gone. Right. I think there's a
I think those people in the mobile homes had millions of dollars.
they don't, and where are they going to go?
Yeah.
Right? Where is it exactly that you're going to send those people? I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true. I haven't done any fact checking, but they're getting $700
Yeah.
per household.
That's the FEMA number. That's what
Is,
Maui
is,
got.
is that? I mean, that's ludicrous. Like, what do I get? I can go buy crackers and a few gallons of water. What? I don't. What
That's
am I
literally what
supposed to
that's the FEMA number though. That's literally what the
do?
people in Lahaina got. Because I had two stores in Maui, one up in Makawao and then one over by the airport. And you know, so I've been through there, and you're like, you can't imagine, like just gone, like
Yeah,
to the ground. It's
I
like a
don't know.
tornado going through.
I don't know what's going to happen with that land and the people there, but you're never going to rebuild that area. And who knows? Maybe it'll be better for the next generation.
I I think the biggest difference between Palisades and like the Eaton fire, the Palisades Pasadena fire, you have a whole lot of lawsuits going on. You're gonna have because those rich people, like I mean, somebody just built an $83 million house that just burnt down up there.
Right. And
Whoever had an $83 million house had the money to sue the government.
they got resources.
Yeah. They have resources to say, hey, why wasn't there fire? Why wasn't there water? Why didn't you fill up the
Right.
blah,
Yeah,
blah,
the
blah, blah, blah.
myriad of things that went wrong, they can pick any one of those and build a whole lawsuit around it.
Yeah.
And I
It's
think
just
it's
one
going to
house.
be
That's just one homeowner.
right. And he's going to get together with all the other rich guys and do the
Class
same
action.
thing. And this is going to be huge. And unfortunately, it'll be taxpayers that pay for it.
Well, that's the paradise, the city of paradise.
This is really quite frustrating, huh? All right, now I'm on the phone. Hopefully that's a little more stable.
Well, and I was just going to try and wrap it up, so we'll do that. So I'll let you.
We'll get going. Yeah, let's do that. I think that might be the omen that says time to wrap it up, right?
I literally, that's why I went to, I switched computers and I hardwired right off my input because I used to do it on Wi-Fi. So I never knew if
Mhm.
the Wi-Fi was my Wi-Fi or their Wi-Fi. So now
Right.
I'm hardwired in. So I'm like,
You know it's theirs.
yeah, but at least it's not me. That's all I can control, right?
Right.
Control what you can
Right.
control.
Yep, that's it. Well, thanks for the time today. It's really been it's been fun actually. It's really cool.
As an introvert, I'm the same way. Like my wife doesn't get it. Like I'll sit there and talk in front of 4,000 people during the day at a rodeo or whatever, or a
Uh-huh.
conference, or and then at the night I just don't talk. I just don't want to talk. I'm done.
Yeah, I've often said to her, honey, I'm happy to listen,
Yeah.
but you might not get a lot of responses from me.
Yeah. I had the conversation last week where I was in Dallas and I literally had meetings from 7 in the morning, which is 5 a.m. my time, till 9:30 at night with the
Uh-huh.
dinners, which is still work. And I'm like, and then she's telling me about the girl at her studio, and I'm like,
What?
I don't want to hear any other problems right now.
Yeah. How about just fun stuff, honey? Because I don't
Yeah.
need a new problem.
Tell me how the dog did today or something.
Right.
But-
I need a story with a beginning and an end and people that aren't introduced along the way. Just, just,
and, and, and,
just
and,
simple.
and no filler. I don't care. Just whatever.
I hear you. Well, it's been a real fun time. I hope we get to talk again. Maybe we can do something later.
Yeah. Where's NEFT located in the stores? Is it?
We have NEFT in a variety of different stores. There's about 7,000 locations in California. I think Ralph's is probably the most prominent place that we retail NEFT. A variety of different restaurants and bars. Obviously, bars and restaurants are kind of the focus. Alcohols really kind of build their brand on the what we call on-premise locations, which would be the bars and restaurants. That's where people get to actually taste. And then they're looking at the retail locations when they come to buy it after the fact, when they want to say, hey, okay, it's ready to enjoy this at home. And oddly enough, after COVID, I'm kind of fond of stats. 67% of alcohol consumption is now done at home. And it used to be,
Yeah.
yeah, like 37% in bars and restaurants. Now it's actually shifting the other way significantly. Yeah.
So I guess my question is because would it help my listeners to when they go out to their bar or restaurant to ask for NEFT vodka?
It would
Does it help?
absolutely help us, right? When I say 7,000 locations in California, there are 100,000 bars in California.
Yeah.
Right. So we're just barely scratching the surface. It definitely helps us the bottom up side for listeners to say, "Hey, I'd love to try a nephew carrier."
Because I know there are distribution companies that actually handle.
Yeah, so we work with Southern Wine and Spirits, which
Yeah.
is one of California, well, probably California's biggest distributor. They have a national footprint. I think they control about 44 states in our union. So we work a lot with them, and it's a plus and a minus, if I might. We're one of many brands, but they're the biggest player. So do you want to be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond, sort of? And it's a toss up, right? Time will tell if we chose right.
Yeah. Well, you got the F1. You got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, we're still, as even though we're in 22 countries, we're considered a startup,
I know it's crazy, right?
right? I mean, it's really quite insane. to think about a company in 22 countries that's considered a startup.
Yeah.
But in the alcohol space, that's kind of where we fall in the landscape of company sizes. So we have to work hard and we have to have some differentiators. Formula One is one of those differentiators. It's a very elite club, if I might. I think there's only about 100 sponsors.
Yeah.
The buy-in on these things is huge. It's a very large number. But it's worth it from an efficiency standpoint in terms of dollars spent versus the awareness and engagement that you get. But most companies couldn't afford it as a startup. So it's odd on the one hand to say, yeah, we're a startup, but we're also in 22 countries and we sponsor a Formula One car.
What what would make you not a startup company anymore?
It's
In 100 countries, is it? You know,
no, it's probably more saturation, if you will. So what NEFT does not have is a national United States national deal.
okay.
Okay, and what we have is distributor relationships in many of the states, but we don't have one distributor where we have a national relationship with. So what you're doing is sort of cobbling together distributor relationships
Yeah.
to cover the states instead of one major player that you're working with. When you become eligible, if you will, to be a national account with one of these massive distributors, now you get attention. Right now, you're the attention they would give you is warranted now, and so that's sort of the stepping stone out of startup into real company, right? If you want to call it that.
But I always like the company I work for, you you hate to say, I think they're happy with what they make. You know what I mean? It's like for them to go from X to Y, the delta's not worth it to them. The amount of time, the effort, the more people, the staffing, the extra warehousing, where they go, at X, I'm making plenty enough. Everyone's happy. Everyone's, do you ever
Yeah.
think about that with NEFT?
No, I don't. I look at it a lot differently. People, we are um, vodka is our current product.
Right.
We're already acquiring other brands. So we've acquired two ready to drink, what they call the RTDs. We've taken a position in tequila, and we're looking at some bourbons, some other products around the world. So the company isn't primarily focused on vodka long range. It is our current product that we're building our distribution and infrastructure around. But we intend to use that distribution and infrastructure to support a variety of other brands. And now you have a much larger play where you do get the efficiencies associated with a grand model that I can understand certain companies, to make it to the next sort of step where you can support multiple brands is elite. It is elite, but we've chosen a path because of our experience in building other global companies to do that at the outset. So we actually have our own print shops. We have a variety of different facilities around the country and the world. We run our own warehousing in many states and countries. We have four distilleries already stood up so that we can manage an excess capacity. We have a variety of different R&D services, like we run a full R&D service center out of Austin, Texas. So we've already set up a huge amount of infrastructure that would otherwise only be appropriate for a very large enterprise, but that is our intent. So we've made that leap that as you were talking about, it wouldn't otherwise be necessary. But we're this isn't a company that fails and is taking a stab at it. It's well capitalized. It's got a lot of smart people in it. It's got an amazing product that it can push. It understands how to emotionally connect with folks, and more importantly, it's passionate and willing to actually help create an elevation in folks' personal lifestyles. And over time, that will resonate, and it will continue to resonate as any other major brand like a Rolex or a Mercedes or whatever it is that you're focused on, as a luxury brand. So we sort of see ourselves as, hey, when you grow up and you got a little bit of money to spend and you want some high quality product,
Yeah.
ditch the other vodka, come here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that will stand the test of time, right? Adding other brands to that, or at least other spirits categories to that, will also help stand the test of time. But there you need a real infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sounds like a
it's a
partnership.
different tact. Yeah.
Well, so I want all my listeners to ask for NEFT vodka. It's NEFT. If you're going anywhere, bar, Vegas, anywhere, just ask for NEFT vodka. And then they
Please
go,
do.
what? You go, NEFT. It's the best vodka. You've never tried it,
There you go.
right?
It's that simple. And that is an immense help to us. Like that's what we're trying to get to have happen.
'Cause I always look at it like that. I mean, I wish consumers on my end would, they go into the store and asking for my product. I know I'm not selling anymore. Now I'm just taking orders to a certain extent.
Well, that's the real test, isn't it? Is when you stop marketing, do the sales continue?
Yeah.
Right. And we've done that in a few smaller jurisdictions, and that is the case. So we know that the product will continue to resonate. We just need to go through the motions of building those markets.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's neftvodka.com. It's Neft Vodka on Instagram.
Yep.
Pretty much just Neft Vodka,
That's
right?
Neft. Just think Neft wherever you go.
And the oil can,
An oil can. Ask for the oil can, Neft.
the oil can vodka. I don't know. I forget what it's called. It's the oil can vodka.
Yeah, that's right. That'll work too.
Hey, I really appreciate the time. It's
Yeah, me too, Pete. Have a great day, buddy.
you too. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye bye.